Hi everyone, this is Mr. Bilal and welcome to KlassPM. And in this section of the video, we will discuss about what is fertilization, what is the mechanism of the fertilization, and first of all, what is fertilization? Fertilization is the process of fusion of male and female gamete. And as I have explained in the previous videos, what is the structure of the sperm, what is the site of the sperm, and what is the structure of ovum and the site of the oogenesis. Now it comes to when the sperms are deposited into the female genital tract, probably in the vagina. There are billions of the sperms, which are 200 million sperms, are actually deposited at a time in the female genital tract, and out of millions of the sperms, only few cross the vaginal tract and they cross the cervical region, and out of those only one sperm fuse with the ovum to form the zygote. As I have explained already that sperms are haploid. When they fuse, they form a diploid zygote. And what is the process of zygote formation? We need to understand first that the human male reproductive cycle, which is also called the menstrual cycle, it usually is of 28 days, probably for 1 month. And this menstrual cycle can be divided into main 3 phases. To understand the process of the fertilization as well as the menstrual cycle, we can go side by side. Then the menstrual cycle, in case of the females, it is average of 28 days. Menstrual cycle is the rhythmical changes. These are the changes which occur in a female due to the different hormones. This menstrual cycle is very, very important to understand the process of the fertilization. The first menstrual cycle occurs at the age of 12 in case of females. First menstrual cycle is called a menarche, and the last being the menopause, when the menstrual cycle completely stops. It stops only after 45 to 50 years. So menstrual cycle has been divided into main 3 phases. That is, one is pre-ovulatory phase, next is ovulatory phase, post-ovulatory phase, or it is also called a luteal phase. Please understand first phases of the menstrual cycle. This pre-ovulatory phase, it exists from 1st day to 14th day of the normal cycle, which is of 28 days. And during these days, during these 14 days, the follicles which are present in the ovary, which I have discussed in the previous video, the mature follicles undergo the process of the maturation. There is a hormone which is responsible for the maturation of that Graafian follicle, which I have explained in pituitary gland and their hormones. Maturation of these Graafian follicles is due to the hormone from the pituitary gland. That hormone is called FSH hormone, follicular stimulatory hormone. Follicular stimulatory hormone is secreted by the anterior pituitary, and this is responsible for the maturation of the Graafian follicle for 14 days of the normal menstrual cycle. And so in pre-ovulatory phase, the Graafian follicle matures, and on the 15th day itself, the mature Graafian follicle, which is now matured due to the FSH hormone, it releases the secondary oocyte which was present in that Graafian follicle, and the release of this secondary oocyte from the mature Graafian follicle is called the ovulation, and the hormone which is responsible for this ovulation is the luteinizing hormone, which is also secreted by the anterior pituitary. So in pre-ovulatory phase, the follicles which were present since birth in a female ovary, those follicles undergo the process of maturation for 14 days. And on the 15th day, please understand, this is very simple. On the 15th day of the normal cycle is of 28th day. On the 15th day, that secondary oocyte which is present inside that second mature Graafian follicle, it is released, and this is released due to a hormone is called LH hormone. And the post-ovulatory phase includes the next 14 days of the remaining menstrual cycle. In post-ovulatory phase, the hormone progesterone is secreted by the ovarian follicle cell, also called corpus luteum. Corpus luteum secretes progesterone. The function of that progesterone is to prepare the uterus for implantation. Implantation means the sticking of the embryo, fertilized ovum, into the uterus. So I have mentioned in the previous video that uterus is a muscular organ, and it is actually made up of 3 layers. The outer layer is the endometrial lining, and that endometrial lining is very, very important for the implantation. In order to develop that endometrial lining of the uterus, the progesterone is needed and estrogen is also needed. In the first 14th day, apart from FSH from pituitary, ovarian follicle cells secrete estrogen. Estrogen prepares that uterus for implantation. And after 14 days, the progesterone is secreted by that follicle, that corpus luteum, which is responsible for the further preparation of this uterus for implantation. So that endometrial lining of the uterus is thickened due to these two hormones, due to estrogen and progesterone. It literally prepares the uterus for the implantation, means sticking of the this fertilizer zygote into the uterus. So this is the overview of the menstrual cycle. Menstrual cycle consists of 3 phases. One is pre-ovulatory phase, then ovulatory phase, then post-ovulatory phase. And this pre-ovulatory phase, in this phase, follicle which was present in the ovary, it is matured, and it is matured by a follicular stimulating hormone for up to 14 days. On the 15th day, in that Graafian follicle, inside is present a secondary oocyte or ovum is released from that Graafian follicle. The process called ovulation. Ovulation means release of ovum, and this happens due to the presence of the LH hormone, luteinizing hormone. This hormone comes from anterior pituitary. Post-ovulatory phase or luteal phase. In this phase, the progesterone is secreted by that NPT Graafian follicle, which is called corpus luteum, and that corpus luteum which secretes progesterone, and that progesterone prepares further uterus for implantation. It thickens the endometrial lining in order to receive the fertilizer zygote. So the fertilization takes place on the 15th day. It means that on the 15th day, when the sperm is deposited into the female genital tract on the 15th or the 16th day, because sperm as well as secondary oocyte has a lifespan of 24 to 48 hours. So within these 24 to 48 hours, sperm must be deposited into the female genital tract. Please remember, before these days, the sperm are deposited into the female genital tract, still no conception can take place, no fertilization can take place, because the ovulation takes place on 15th day. Because we need secondary oocyte which is present in the Graafian follicle, and that Graafian follicle is ruptured by LH on the 15th very day. Although if sperms are present before that or after that, fertilization cannot take place literally. On the 15th or 16th day, the fertilization can take place. So on the 14th or the 15th day, when the sperms are deposited into the genital tract, the sperm, with the help of the mitochondria present in the tail of the sperm, utilize the ATP, that mitochondria, in order to travel the genital tract of the female to reach ultimately to the ampulla isthmus junction, while the secondary oocyte is present the 15th day. Please remember this, the fertilization itself takes place on that very place, that isthmus ampulla junction. And on the 15th or 16th day, if the sperms are deposited, the process of fertilization takes place. The fertilization is the fusion of male gamete and the female gamete to restore the diploid condition, so that zygote is diploid. And that fertilized zygote is literally moved back from ampulla into the uterus back in order to get implanted. The process of implantation is the sticking of the zygote into the uterus. There is molecular mechanism involved in the process of the fertilization. You simply remember, after the fertilization, which takes place into the ampulla isthmus junction, question asked in the most of the examinations, the fertilization which takes place in the isthmus ampulla junction, then this fertilized zygote moves back into the uterus, and this uterus, thick endometrial lining, it was literally prepared for to receive the zygote, fertilized zygote, and this zygote gets implanted into the uterus. Now what happens there in the uterus to this fertilized zygote? There is the outer layer of this zygote. It is actually called the trophoblast. But this trophoblast later on develops into the chorion. It is the layer, outer layer, which is literally in contact with the maternal tissue, with the uterus, with the endometrial lining. Some villi, chorionic villi. So this layer later on develops into the layer. This layer is called the chorionic layer. This chorionic layer of the fetus and the embryo and layer, endometrial lining layer of the maternal, of the mother, literally join together to form the placenta. The functions of the placenta are very important. So please understand, the placenta is nothing. It is actually the chorionic layer and the fetus and the maternal layer, that endometrial lining, which is joined together to form a connection between mother and the fetus. This connecting link is called the placenta.
the placenta has a very important role as far as the life of this fetus is concerned, because this fetus needs some nutrition, it needs fructose, it needs other electrolytes in order to develop fully. And these electrolytes, these nutritions, these glucose, this fructose is transported, it is imported from the maternal blood into the fetal blood. Please remember, there is no mixing of the blood between the mother and the fetus. The blood of the mother and fetus is not mixed. It is the placenta which is a connecting link only. It does not allow the mixing of the blood between the fetus and the mother. But literally, there is the connection link through which the electrolytes, through which the some nutrients are passed from the blood of the mother into the fetus of the blood in order for the further development. Apart from this placenta, there are other extra embryonic membranes which are responsible for the protection of the fetus and further development of fetus. We will discuss it in the next video. Thank you.